Well, hello everybody, my peeps, my friendos, my favorite people, and welcome back to another
OG Theory.
And lately, there's been a Pixar theory buzzing in my brain, not so much the popular one everyone talks about, but rather my own Pixar theory, which is this. I believe that nearly every Pixar story is told through the eyes and imaginations of children as a way to handle their struggles and realities of their lives, Toy Story being the exception. And the connector is that they are all kids in school, or at the age of kids who would be in school, living on the same Earth that Andy and Bonnie live on from Toy Story. Let's dive in. Andy and Bonnie, the king and queen of Pixar in connection to the secret of my Pixar theory, demonstrates firsthand the power of imagination. The way they both mix a bunch of different toys and objects together to create their own narratives actually makes for something pretty beautiful to behold. A child playing through storytelling. But it wasn't until Toy Story 3 that we see this creativity actually come to life through Andy, where for the first and last time, it doesn't show his hands controlling the toys, but rather the toys are controlling themselves through his narrative. By this time, he's around 10 to 12 years old, I believe, hence the beginning of a more mature imagination. Isn't it odd that the beginning of Toy Story 3 is the only one that features a kid's playtime scenario that doesn't acknowledge the presence of the kid who's controlling the toy's actions? Very much like a world of its own, right? Sort of like any other Pixar movie that's currently available. It's a hint, people, and it's the birthplace of elaborate storytelling through a growing kid's eyes, showing us the world that they feel like they live in and the imagination they use to cope with whatever's going on. Which again, I believe is nearly every other Pixar film, Toy Story being the world everyone comes from. And you may think this is a bit of a stretch, but hear me out. Every Pixar story that we see so far includes a growing youth with an inner struggle, and the only way the youth copes with these struggles is their imaginative worlds they plunge into. Here are a few examples.
The Incredibles.
This is the story of a brother and sister coming from a family of mission-based parents, where they lead a secret life, or in some ways an incredible one, and these youths struggle to blend into their continuously new environment, especially at school. The brother has an issue in slowing down to the speed of his new surroundings, and the sister has an issue feeling invisible and unable to retain a sense of normality, and in turn, they use their imaginations and turn their weaknesses into superpowers, allowing them to strike a balance in their lives and eventually come to be proud of whatever their origins are. Perhaps army brats or something like that.
Onward.
The story of a kid named Ian who wishes more than anything that he could meet his dead father just once and fill that missing part of him that's holding him back at school and in life, plunging into a world filled with adventure and magic, bringing him closer to the very person who was always there for him and is the closest thing to his own dad that he'll ever find, Barley.
Finding Nemo.
Yeah, a story about how a handicapped school kid deals with being different than the others and overprotected by his father, and went too far past the safety and knowledge of his neighborhood and ends up becoming lost for the first time, imagining himself as a fish in the ocean in hopes that his overprotective father will be able to find him.
Cars.
Yeah, a story about how a highly competitive and successful teen at school, focused on one thing, which is winning his competitions, loses his grasp at the important things in life and has to deal with learning how to respect and honor those who don't have the luxury of honing such a special skill, and remembering that he's not the only kid who went on this journey of discovering balance in what's important beyond the one thing that currently drives him, which is competition.
Monsters, Inc.
I mean, yeah, anyone with a much younger brother or sister knows that you have to come up with ways to protect that sibling from not only some of the harms from the outside world, but also shield them from seeing your own personal monster and how to adjust your life to keep them happy because it's rooted in your DNA. And though it's not proven yet, I think Monsters, Inc. 1 is the story of a senior who is about to go to college, all the while dealing with having to say goodbye to a sibling that is just getting old enough to become attached to her older brother, but that's for another time.
Luca.
The story about a farm boy who is struggling to find his balance and growing out of his family traditional sense of living and getting out there and finding what the world has to offer, all the while trying to hide the fact that he's afraid of people seeing him for what he believes he is, which is a beautiful weirdo.
Inside Out.
the story of a girl who's dealing with growing into being a young woman, all the while also dealing with moving away from her old home where she was happy, while having to pretend to be happy for her family, and therefore imagining her emotions are split into five and she has to take the driver's seat as Joy, banishing all the other memories in hopes she won't feel sad anymore if they don't exist. You know, I could go on and perhaps one day I will, but the point I'm trying to prove is this. Pixar is a group of stories created by the imaginations of children from Andy and Bonnie's Earth that illustrate the problems and journeys many other children can relate to. But maybe that's far-fetched, I don't know. Could you let me know in the comments below? Also, if you like this video, if you could please hit that like button, that would be pretty awesome. Alright, enough of that. Back to it. And the reason I think these kids come from the world Andy and Bonnie are from, the Toy Story world, is because of the little tie-ins that we see in almost all the movies, like Dynaco. I truly think that's a real gas station in their world, like a Shell station or BP or whatever. Same with all the toys like Buzz Lightyear. He's seen in Finding Nemo because he's a real toy that exists in the world where the children are from. Same with Triple Dent Gum and By and Large and the Luxor Ball. And depending on how influential those brands are to the kids determines on how much you see them in the movie. But the biggest hint for me was the presence of
A113.
This is a tribute to the classroom used by character animation students at the California Institute of the Arts, where a lot of the Pixar staff came from. Seeing how this number appears in nearly every Pixar film, this is enough for me to top my theory that all these stories come from the imaginations of students, maybe even students from the same classroom, perhaps A113? Well, that might be too much of a stretch, which is why it's not presented as part of my theory right now. But perhaps with a little more research, I'll be able to find more connections, proving that all of these stories come from the same classroom or school, which would be pretty crazy. But anyways, that's all I got, folks. What do you think of my theory? Is it bogus, or might I have stumbled upon something special and different that could explain the Pixar theory a little better? Please let me know again in the comments below. It's always a joy hearing from you. Thank you for tuning in to another one of my theories, and until next time, peace, love, fried chicken, and bye-bye.